loving myself and accepting myself is like, I love it, so I'm going to do the best thing I can to just be better, be happier, be healthier, have a healthier body. And it's like the biggest act of rebellion is loving yourself, actually, regardless, and accepting yourself. You know, like one of the best thing about this change that I've had, you know, in my own relationship with my body is like, it's so much freedom. I feel so free.
Hello, Trevor here from the Healing Vibrations, and welcome to episode 1 of Conscious Conversations. We're here in a beautiful location, and today I'm going to be talking to Kat, who is an EFT practitioner. If you don't know what EFT is, I'm sure she'll explain everything about it. So let's get into it. Hello, Kat.
Hello, Trevor.
And you've chosen this location, and it's quite amazing. So yeah,
Gorgeous, isn't it?
So how do I say your name? Because I know it's Polish, yeah.
It's Polish and it's Katarzyna, but everybody calls me Kat.
Yeah, I'll call you Kat.
Yeah,
that's good.
That's good.
Okay, so you are an EFT practitioner, and you are living in Bournemouth.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, and so could you explain a little bit what EFT is and how it can benefit people?
Oh, a little bit.
Well,
I will
a lot, yeah.
So EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques, and it's also commonly known as tapping, and you will understand why in a moment. And so essentially, EFT is a combination of three things. It ties in together ancient Chinese medicine, so same principles on which acupuncture and acupressure is based on. The idea that our bodies have 12 main energy channels called meridians through which our chi, which is the life force energy, flows. And when the energy is blocked at certain points, then we can experience certain difficulties and issues both on emotional and physical level, which are both tied to each other. Together with modern psychology, particularly CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and exposure therapy, and then into the mix, you throw some neuroplasticity, which is your brain's ability to change itself and adapt to situations and change your beliefs. And the reason why we call EFT tapping is because, as like I mentioned, acupressure and acupuncture, you will either apply strong pressure or needles to the point to unblock the energy and allow it to flow freely through your system again. And in EFT, we use tapping. So we use a set of 9 points. There are more of them that have been initially used, but nowadays it's kind of been simplified to 9 points that are from your torso, your face, and your hands. And through the process of tapping, you get to stimulate those points. So really, it's a method that can be applied to any issue, a huge variety of them. The element of the exposure therapy is that you are actually facing the challenging and the difficult emotion and experiences. And I tend to use words challenging or comfortable and uncomfortable because I'm kind of moving away from the negative and positive emotions, because I think all of them have their place and they're important, and we have them all for a reason. So yeah, when you have like a certain experience from your past, traumatic experience, difficult, challenging experience, or like uncomfortable, challenging emotion, you expose yourself to it by bringing it into the process and talking about it and talking about the feelings, and basically just bringing the truth of your experience to it. And then the CBT comes in a way that like it teaches you accepting of what is.
So CBT is cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yes,
yeah.
that's right.
Okay.
As you tap on the points, you really tune in to the discomfort and all of the aspects of your experience, everything that you feel, it being emotionally and physically, everything that you hear, memories, like you just bring all of the layers. And then what you do at the beginning of every EFT round, which is when we started on the side of the hand, you start with this sentence that represents the paradox of change, which is, even though I have this problem, so even though I'm really sad, even though I'm really grieving, even though I'm really disappointed in myself, I choose to accept myself right now, or I choose to love myself in this moment. So it's just bringing that, the idea of that you can be okay while you are experiencing distressful emotions,
Hmm.
while you are in not a really good place emotionally, you can be experiencing difficult emotions that you don't have to run away from them, that you don't have to cover them up with, like smoking, drinking, social media, etc. That like when you have difficult emotions, it's okay to be with them. And it's like a very common saying in the personal development world: feel it to heal it. So say if like you had a really difficult experience when you've experienced a lot of anger or for unjust treatment, but you haven't dealt with it, you haven't felt that, you haven't moved through it, it's stuck in your body, the anger, and it's kind of constantly there, emitting at a lower frequency, and then any little triggers just
Yeah.
just like really trigger you, and that's why a lot of the time people have like this really unreasonable reaction to like very small events, is because that feeling on a larger scale is there, hidden. And so what EFT does, it creates safe space, because actually it's also been scientifically proven that tapping on the points sends a calming signal to your amygdala, which is a small almond-shaped part of your brain. And its main job, it has a few functions, but its main function is to react to danger with fight, flight, or freeze. And so because of the society, the way that we live today, with the stress being kind of ever present, our amygdala is very much on alert a lot of the time, and it's not aware of the fact that like, oh, this is just an emotional discomfort, like it's danger. So you experience that stress, you want to move away from it, right?
Hmm.
And so through the process of tapping, it has been scientifically measured, your amygdala receives a signal that it's safe and it can relax, and that the discomfort is just an emotional level. And so therefore you can actually sit with it, and you can really feel the feeling. And once you do, feelings need to be felt. And
Yeah.
once their job is done, then the feelings are free to move.
It's something that's been coming up quite a lot recently about, sitting with that pain, not ignoring it, like you were saying. And I think if you've got the tools to be able to do that, instead of self-medicating in lots of different ways, the more tools that are available for you to actually, okay, well, I recognize this pain, I can allow it to come up because it's safe to come up, and I can use this, whether it's meditation or EFT or whatever it is. If it works for you, allowing that pain to come up, I think, is really useful, and to acknowledge it and go, it's okay. I know you're trying to keep me safe, but I'm here for you and you're here for me, and let's deal with it. So yeah, it's a powerful process. And how did you get into EFT?
So I came across it first, I think it was 2015. I was living in Thailand at the time, and my mom sent me a YouTube video from this guy who's created his own method called Faster EFT, which, don't look it up.
Don't look it
I
up.
don't really recommend it. It's very shallow. It's very shallow EFT, but it kind of gave me like a first little taste of it, and it was like a 5 minute experience, and I really felt like the difference in how I felt after trying it. And I was like, oh, that's just interesting, and I kind of logged it in my brain as like an interesting thing. And then some months later, I received a newsletter from the Truth About Cancer about EFT Tapping Summit, that's run by the Ortner family, who are two brothers and a sister who done a massive amount of exposure for EFT. And so they've been holding this summit for like about 60 years now. And I was like, oh, is that thing that my mom showed me at fire? And I signed up. And I've watched the first interview, and I just loved it. And I've watched it was like 10 days, 2 interviews a day, plus like a bonus thing. And I've watched all of them. And within all the interviews, you get tap along sequences. And I was like, this stuff is amazing, and I love all the speakers. And then there was a one particular guy who's been a huge influence in my journey and my career as well. His name is Brad Yates, and he's the largest EFT YouTuber. His channel is close to 400,000 subscribers now, and he has over 1,000 videos where he creates EFT tapping rounds for different issues. And so I just started using his channel, and I'll be using it, for random, not random, like various little things. Um, and I've been using it for about, I think, about 3 years. And then one time I was talking to my mom on Skype, and she told me that she was experiencing quite a challenging situation. And then there was like a lot of difficult emotions that came up with it. And I was like, oh, mom, let's just have a look on YouTube. I'm sure we can find EFT tapping round. Because I was like, well, whenever I had any issue, I'd be like, this is the first thing I'll do, you know, it radiates plus anxiety, radiates plus anger, radiates resentment, and I always found something. And so I started Googling and I couldn't find anything. There was like a couple of Polish EFT channels, but they were quite small and there wasn't that much variety. And so I said, okay, well, let me find a round from Brady and I'll translate it for you and then I'll do it for you on Skype. So we did that and I've done it 2 times and there was like a really significant change. She felt a lot of relief. And I wanted to start a YouTube channel for like years prior to that, and I had multiple ideas of like what I could do. And then I felt like that'd be a really great thing to do for my people, you know, for Polish community as a whole. And so I thought, let me get in touch with Brady and see if he'd be okay with me doing that, translating his videos, because since he had so much of it already available. And then a couple of days later, I went on his website to get in touch, and then I look at live events, and he was in UK like 3 days later, and he's from the United States, and he only comes to UK every 2 years, and it just happened to be around that time. So I bought the ticket. I've messaged him like on every platform where I could reach him to let him know about my idea, and then I would like to talk to him. And so at the event, I approached him, and he was very happy for me to do that, and he's been like really supportive, and we gotten like a little bit closer. I could maybe even call him a friend.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's how it started. Well, actually, he's given me the permission to do it in September 2019. And I was like all excited. I've upgraded my phone, got a microphone, and then like a bit of imposter syndrome and fear set in. And I was like, because I've experienced a lot of bullying online when I was in high school, and so that's what actually was stopping me from going on YouTube. And so I started procrastinating, holding back. And then March 2020 came around. We know what happened. Then Brad Yates released a video for the fear of coronavirus and how being in fear actually lowers your immune system. And then he released another video how to strengthen your immune system using EFT tapping. And I was like, right, like all of the things that he said, they make perfect sense for me. And I know that like being in fear is not in any way or shape good for you. So it's like, I just have to get over my fear and just have to do it. So I've translated those 2 videos. And then it just kind of started going from there, and I started doing more and more, start kind of building my confidence, being on camera, and people start coming in. The feedback was really, really beautiful, really positive. I figure like, oh, I think this is like out of all of those things that I do and I can do, and in some ways they contribute to society, enrich other people's life. This is like really powerful stuff, you know? And so I've decided to train, and I train as a practitioner in 2021. And since then, I have led like clients through hundreds of hours of one-to-one sessions, and mostly do that on Zoom. But it evolved, and I started leading workshops for women. I did this workshop, Learn to Love Your Body with EFT tapping for women who struggle with their body image. And I started doing some public speaking about it, and it's just like slowly more and more things. And I started an English channel after with that. So I just keep kind of adding new arrows to mine.
It's interesting because I find that people come into the holistic practitioner healing environment, either something sparks their interest and they find it really useful and they want to share that with other people, and there's a passion behind that, or they come through their own trauma and they find that you know, the kind of a baptism of fire where they come through and go, actually, you know, they find it because they're looking for solutions for their own problems. So it's interesting how that comes about. I mean, in regards to somebody who's never done it, they can learn the what's it called when you have a particular. So, for instance, I'm going to do this particular routine, because is it a thing called a gamut point and psychological reversal and things like. So there's all these parts that make this up. Is it a protocol or a recipe when you do it? I'm going to do this particular set of tapping. What is that called?
There is a recipe.
Okay.
Yes, a basic recipe. Gamut point is not used so much by most practitioners. I don't really use it, but the reason I don't use gamut point, because for me tapping here is really uncomfortable. It just literally makes me cringe.
So for those that are listening in audio, the gamut point is would you say an inch from the knuckle?
Yes,
the indentation?
about an inch from the knuckle between the pinky finger and the ring finger, and it's on both hands because the meridians, they run symmetrically, so they run on both sides of the body. So it really doesn't matter which side you're walking on. But yeah, the basic EFT tapping recipe is you will begin on the side of the hand, which is called carrot choke point, the triple warmer. And this is where you have the basic setup statement, which I've mentioned before. Even though I have this issue and I feel this and that, I choose to accept myself right now. I choose to love myself right now, or I choose to accept how I feel. However, the clinical EFT tapping, the statement would be, I choose to love and accept myself.
So the
Right?
words are very important.
The first bit, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially when it comes to all the studies, because the studies have been all done on clinical EFT, because EFT is actually very malleable and flexible and very forgiving method, and it's very hard to do it wrong. And I think it's almost impossible to like do it in a bad way. But you know, I when you think of all the studies that have been done, they have been done on the clinical EFT. So that's how you do it. You do a setup statement, and then you move through the set of points. And for some of us, we begin on the eyebrow, and we end on the head. And certain practitioners, mostly in the United States, they start on the top of the head and they end under the arm. And so you've got 9 points. So the way that I've been doing it, you've got an eyebrow point. So it's the point like again, both sides works. You can do it with two hands at the same time. You can do it with just one hand, or you can do left hand on the right on, like honestly, it does not matter at all. So you don't have to worry about it. And also, even though I'm going to show you all the points, if say you happen to skip one, you forget about it, or you stay longer, like it really doesn't matter. Nothing bad is going to happen. So I really want to stress that you know, like initially, like you kind of have to learn this, and then it's totally fine to like miss something. I don't really do it. I don't really miss anything anymore because it's just such a muscle memory. So yeah, the first one would be the eyebrows. So literally where you know, kind of the side of your bridge of your nose, where your eyebrows begin, and then you tap with two fingers very gently on the eyebrows, and I invite you to try to do that with me, you know, just without talking, just to experience that. And then the next point is side of the eye. So we've got that flat bit on the side of your eye. Again, two fingers, very gently. Like I see sometimes some people need to, they go like, it's really stressed me out. I really do not recommend doing it so hard. Gentle tapping. The next points are under the eye, so where you have the top of your cheekbone. And next point under the nose, so that little groove here between the upper lip and the nose. And there's a chin point, so underneath the lip and the chin. So again, so I see sometimes people go here on the chin. No, it's like right here in between. Again, there's that little groove there, isn't it? And then next point is called a collarbone point, even though it's not on collarbone. So the easiest way to find it is like if you're to like bring your shoulders forward. I don't have the right top for it. You can, or the necklace, you can kind of see there's like an indentation here underneath your collarbone. And so to make sure that you are going to like tap it, you just use all your fingers and you just gently tap underneath your collarbones, kind of like close to the center. And there's two more points. One is underneath the arm. So if you can kind of think in line with your nipple or about a couple of inches below your armpit. And then top of the head, and with the top of the head, you kind of can think like where your ears are. If you were to draw a line when your fingers meet at the top of the head. And again, you can use your whole palm. You just tap on it. And then again, there's a certain American practitioner, Carol Luke. I think she kind of popularized this, going like this. So you will see people like tapping around the whole head. You don't have to do that because then you will only sometimes hit the spot. So just the top of your head. And then that's a full round. And kind of depending on what are you tapping on, sometimes just one, sometimes it's two. If you do it on like a YouTube video, so like a pre-made script, it tend to be like 6 to 8 because you wanna kind of encapsulate like the whole of the experience in that.
Okay, and this can be used for lots of different conditions and challenges.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So personally, because you've mentioned, you know, how like for a lot of people who bring those tools is because they've experienced it working. I actually talk for a really long time about like how much EFT has helped me, but let me just mention some of like the most kind of pivotal and crucial things in my life. And so a first really important one is overcoming driving anxiety. I didn't drive for nearly 15 years because I was really, really, really afraid, and driving would just send me to tears, and it just was just a horrible experience. And I've tapped on it for 10 days while having a break from driving. And then when I got in my car next time, it was like heaven and hell. in terms of like difference. And today I absolutely love driving. It's like my favorite
Awesome.
thing to do. And I've also helped a couple of my clients overcome that fear as well. Another huge thing for me has been changing the stepping out of the pattern of dating narcissistic people. Because as a child, I had someone in my close environment who was a narcissist, which I realized in 2020 through like I've done a few months of therapy. And so once I saw that, and then through that process, I also look at all my past relationships, and I realized that most of the people were narcissists, or at least they had like narcissistic tendencies. I have done a lot of EFT on that, on the relationship with the first person that I don't want to mention who that is, and then on my partners, and I've cleared that. Like I've cleared and I've learned how to recognize it, and I no longer have the need to have a narcissistic people in my life, which is huge. And kind of personally, like one of the biggest one, and the biggest one in a way, because I realize there's such a huge struggle for so many people, especially so many women, and this is what I kind of tend to I start to like specialize a bit more in, even though I have clients that come to me from all walks of life with all sorts of issues. One of my biggest changes was changing the relationship that I have with my body, because I was a chubby kid, and I was bullied a lot in primary school, and then bullied online in high school massively because of my looks and my weight. And my weight always fluctuated, and I was quite a bit overweight. I basically hated my body my whole life. I hated my body, viscerally hated it, and treated it terribly, and just had a very unhealthy relationship with it. And the first step to like kind of start shifting it was yoga, but I started yoga at 6 years old, and at 28, I still hated my body, even though like I had like a slightly different relationship to it because of yoga. And it really wasn't until I started doing EFT tapping, like deeply, like actually looking at that specific issue. And then I heard this practitioner, Jessica Ortner, who I mentioned before from the family. She said, "You cannot, you cannot look after. How did she say? You cannot look after something that you hate." And so like I always was trying to change my body from the space of hating.
Yeah.
Like I punished my body with exercise because it was too fat or too flabby or whatever, and like I punished my body with depriving it of food, and then I punished it by eating food that wasn't good for me or overeating. So it's just like always all coming from a really negative space. And even the good things that I was trying to do from the negative space, they wouldn't last because it was a punishment, and who wants to punish themselves for a long time, right? And so by using EFT tapping, I learned to accept and love my body where it was and how it was, exactly how it was, with the big thighs and whatever, all of the other things that I used to have issue with. And from that space, I actually started being like, okay, well, this is like my temple. This is very precious, and so I want to do things that are going to support my body. I don't want to eat sugar because I know like I'm very health conscious. I've always been really interested in that. I was like, I don't want to eat sugar because I know how it works in the body, and I know it's not good for me.
I think it's people know, they know there's things that are bad for them. They know there's things they shouldn't be doing, but because of a lack of self-love at a deep level, and a fear of not being accepted at some level, that creates these emotions, and these emotions try and find the medication that they need in some way. So, even to a point where I don't like my body, I don't like this, underneath that is that lack of self-love. And that's the foundation. Is if you really love yourself, everything else will naturally flow from that point.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of times we get fixated on certain aspects of what we're not doing and what we should be doing. And really, at the foundation of the building of who we are is that lack of self-love for whatever reason. Because we either stop becoming that person as a child. We wanted to be more subjugate attachment to someone and say, actually I'm not going to be authentic. I'm going to rather be inauthentic and suppress my emotions and feelings, in exchange for the fact that people are going to want to be around me, or my parents are going to care for me, or my siblings are going to care for me. And then that kind of manifests into all these different behaviors and belief systems, and then we get lost in that And fundamentally, if more people were just going around loving themselves, they naturally would love their body.
Yeah.
And also, you know, society has a massive impact on how men and women look at themselves, how they're expected to look. And you know, if they don't look a certain way, then they're not going to get the rewards or be successful and all these things. And something that the comedian Jimmy Carr said recently, he said, in 25 years' time, you'd exchange everything you have just to be where you are now with this health and this body. And I think it's that gratitude for where you're at as well is important.
Well, you know, like imagine if like tomorrow everyone woke up and they just love themselves. Imagine how many business would just
Yeah, yeah.
you know, there's so much business that's based like it's run making us feel that we're not good enough until we get that thing and that signpost just always keeps moving and moving and moving. You know. So
one of the interesting things I'm interested about doing this series of podcasts is how different healing modalities work. And from what you're saying, when I'm doing energy healing, I believe there's information in the field of energy, and that information through intention is shifted through intention in some sort of practice or belief system. And so it sounds like the same with what you're doing. We have energy in our field, information, you know, from a belief system or some past trauma, and by sending an intention to heal that and in some way accessing it through EFT, it's tapping. That is what facilitates the healing process.
that's right.
And I think a lot of I don't think so far I've not found one that doesn't work like that. It's a way of interacting with the information that we have in our system.
Mm-hmm.
And that is
And in the field.
yeah, and in the field. And love is the most efficient way of doing that. You know, if there's fear there, that's going to counteract it. So if we bring love into the equation for ourselves and for the things that have actually come to the surface and to show us that actually, you know, this is fear, this is a trauma, then instead of going in with aggression and going like a lot of people, I hate this, I hate that, it's like, I fear this, I fear that, and avoid it. It's meeting it with love.
Yeah, because you know, this is what I really strongly feel is that like when you love yourself, then you become your own biggest cheerleader, and it's so much easier to deal with any challenges when you are actually able to support yourself and hold yourself through it rather than hate yourself through it or hate yourself for it, you know, for what you experience. Like, no, like, oh, okay, this is hard, this is challenging, this is difficult. It's okay that it's difficult. I can still love myself. I can still love myself while I feel guilty. I can still love myself while I cheat on my partner. I can still love myself while I'm overweight. I can still love myself even though I'm in a job I hate. You know, like it's not to say like because you know sometimes especially when I talk about the body stuff, the body positivity kind of ties in, which it like I don't actually really agree with. It's a sticky subject, but you know, like with the body positivity, it's like, oh well, this is who I am, so whatever, just accept it. You know, like you have to take me like this. And for me, this loving myself and accepting myself is like I love it, so I'm gonna do the best thing I can to just be better, be happier, be healthier, have a healthier body. You know, but from the space of like I support myself, I hold myself through this rather than oh you sow this and you sow that and like how long can you be how long can you maintain doing a good thing when it's like oh you're just terrible, you're this, you're that. It's hard. It's hard. But when it's like you got this, you oh you it didn't work out today, that's okay.
And I think it's an incremental process. It's something that you start to do. You start changing direction and go, actually, right, and sometimes I say to people, if you look in the mirror and go, I love you, it feels uncomfortable. And if it feels uncomfortable, that means there's still work to be done there. And we talk about body types. It's interesting because if you look at art that's like, you know, say 100 years ago, the women that are objectified, very white skin, and that's what was attractive because its significance was the fact that, oh, well, they can afford food. They, you know, they have the best quality of life. And now it's like, okay, actually, there's a certain body type and you've got to be looking brown to be, you know, that's a significant type. But people always, like society is always saying, well, actually, this is what a body type looks like, which is completely different. to what it used to be. So
Yeah.
it's interesting how much of it is built into our sort of makeup, our DNA, our physiology, and how much of it is actually imprinted into us as
But
a.
also, how much it bloody changes those trends of what's good looking. It's ridiculous, you know, like it just keeps, the signpost keeps
But
moving.
who's manipulating that? You see,
Yeah.
it's the media, it's the establishment, it's the corporate industries that say, well, actually, we want to sell this, so this is what, and they'll get some model up there that is not realistic, and they'll dress them up in a certain way and sell the lifestyle, and suddenly everybody wants to suddenly get cosmetic surgery and
Yeah.
look a certain way, and it's the same for men as well. There's a pressure. So yeah, I think that when these shifts start happening internally as individuals and start spreading out to the communities, that's when a lot of things will change, because they need to. They can't stay like this. We're just buying stuff to look a certain way to impress people that most of us don't even like. So,
Mm.
it's an inside job.
It is an inside job, and it's like the biggest act of rebellion is loving yourself, actually, regardless, and accepting yourself. You know, and that's what also allowed. Like one of the best thing about this change that I've had, in my own relationship with my body is like it's so much freedom. I feel
Mm,
so free.
yeah,
I feel so free because I am now okay with what God, my mom, Mother Nature gave me. This body that I'm okay with what I've got, and I work with what I've got. And I don't care about like what's in shit now, whether it's a heroin chic or Kim Kardashian big ass bubble bow. It's like it just makes me laugh.
I think the distinction about loving yourself is probably worth looking at, because it's built in. I was growing up. If somebody was looking after self, walking down the street and being significant, it was like, oh, look at him, he loves himself. Look at her, she loves herself. They kind of dissuade from loving themselves because they think it's something that's a negative thing
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah,
society.
yeah.
Whereas really, the loving yourself is a different type of love. It's a
Mm-hmm.
feeling anyway, express myself in any way without feeling or caring about whether people judge me or not. And I think that is the type of self love that's, I think you're talking about. It's more,
Yes,
yeah,
100%. Because the people who are actually like doing it in the egotistical way or like the narcissistic way, the truth is like they don't actually love themselves. That's why they do this, because they're trying to
yeah.
get the adoration and the approval and all of this. When you actually do love yourself, you don't really care that much what other people.
And I think that's something you learn on this journey of healing, is that I look back and go, I did that because I wanted significance. I did that because I wanted attention. And then when you get to a point where you just let go, it is a freeing process.
Mhm.
And I look at people that are walking down the street, like you're saying, and they've had cosmetic surgery, or they have a really nice car, and you know why they're doing it. It's not that it's not wrong to have a nice things,
Yeah.
but there's a reason why they're doing it. And all I see is people that are feeling that they're not enough,
Yeah.
and especially young girls at the
Yeah.
moment. It's so
Yeah.
sad.
It's really sad. It's really sad. And so this is one of the reasons why I do the work that I do.
Hmm.
And this is why I chose to like focus more on that subject, particularly with my English channel, because my Polish channel I decided to kind of leave it a bit of like a panacea, where people can just tap into different issues. But with the English channel, this is like I really want to talk about that, like body image and following the trends and just constantly changing and spending like hundreds of thousands of pounds and dollars, to just chase those unrealistic standards that like you're never gonna reach them anyway, because by the time you do, there's a new thing that's come along that you're supposed to do in order to be found attractive.
I've noticed in the last couple of years the amount of women's groups that have come together, and also men's groups. And I think it's not like men need to do the work and women need to do it. We both need to do the work, because there's a lot of wounded people going into relationships to try and fix themselves, and they're just blaming each other and then going to the next relationship and blaming each other.
Mm-hmm.
So the more tools that are available for people to look inside themselves and to take responsibility, then the less they will be attracted to people that are trying to, well, it's like the abuser and the victim, they always seem to find each other. you know. But if you heal that within yourself, then you gravitate to a different type of person, to a different lifestyle, to a different way of living.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the more tools that we have to be able to do that, the more information that's out there. And it's not that one particular tool works for everybody. It's not one size fits all, is it?
Yes.
But if people can just sample from the buffet of go, oh, EFT works for me.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Like it has done for you.
Yeah, yeah. You know, like one of my favorite saying in English language is different strokes for different folks.
Yeah.
I love it, you know. I really love it. And then, you know, like in my own journey, like, you know, if I haven't done things that I've done before, then maybe by the time I'd come to EFT, I'd be like, oh, what is this bullshit? Like, this looks so weird, or what? Like, I might not be open to it, or you know, because like, if I haven't heard certain things before, then that line, you cannot love something that you hate, just wouldn't hit the spot for me, because it'd be like I might not be able to understand that, you know. So yeah, 100%, like all of those tools that are available, it's great to sample it and try and see what resonates more with you, and combine them, you know, because EFT is considered a complementary therapy. That means like you can really use it alongside anything else, and it's also very safe. Like you can use it with elderly, you can use it with children, you can use it with animals.
So if people would like to book a session with you, they can work with you online?
Yes, that's right. I work one-to-one on Zoom, and you can book a free 20 minutes discovery call to kind of actually see if you feel that I'm the right person for you, and also if I feel you're the right client for me. You can ask questions, and I'm also open to working with events. You know, like I love to introduce people to EFT tapping, and I hold workshops for women as well. So.
Great. Okay, so all the information is online, and yeah, thank you very much, and we'll do this again.
Thank you so much, Trevor. Thank you for having me.